Alright, let's build our very first ZOS Java application. Building a ZOS Java application is just like building any other Java application. We start out going to Package, Explore, right click, click on New Java Project. For project name, we'll choose Insurance. We'll stick with the default location for the project and we'll use Java 8 as our JRE. Click on Finish. So we have our insurance project. We have no source yet, and this project depends on Java 8. Let's add our source. Right click, click on New, File. We're going to call this read payee data.java. I already written the application, so I'm going to copy and paste the pre-written Java application into our new file. Alright, there it is. That's our Java application. Oh, no, there's a couple of errors. It says the import com IBM JZOS cannot be resolved. The reason why we're seeing these errors is because the version of IBM Java SDK that we're using in Eclipse does not contain JZOS. Remember, in a prior session, I mentioned that JZOS is only included in the ZOS version of the IBM Java SDK. So what we need to do is we'll need to copy the IBM JZOS.jar file that we downloaded from our prior session into this project. So here is our IBM JZOS.jar file. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it into our insurance project. Let's create a new folder to contain this IBM JZOS.jar file. Right click on insurance project, click on new folder, and we'll call it lib. And let's move this IBM JZOS jar into that lib folder. So we copied IBM JZOS.jar file into our insurance project, but we still have these errors. That's because we'll also need to include this jar file in our build path. So open up Package, Explore, click on Insurance, click on File, and click on Properties. Here, let's navigate to Java Build Path and Libraries. You can see that the JRE system library for Java 8 is already included. We'll need to click on Add Jars, Insurance, lib. We'll navigate to IBM JZOS.jar that we copied over to our project and click OK. So now we have the IBM JZOS jar in our build path along with the JRE system library. Click on OK. And voila! All the errors are gone. Now we have a working Java application in our Eclipse project. Let's go over this project, this program, line by line. This program basically reads from a ZOS dataset containing insurance payee information and prints the information that it reads directly to standard output. It accepts one argument, which is the name of the dataset to read. If you provide it with no arguments, or if you give it more than one argument, it will complain. It will say, please provide a dataset name containing payee payout information. and we'll exit. Once it has the dataset name, it can now open a dataset using a class called ZFile. ZFile is a JZOS class for opening and closing ZOS datasets, for reading and writing to ZOS datasets. By creating a new instance of ZFile, you're opening a ZOS dataset. You pass it the dataset name that you want to open and a string containing a bunch of options for opening the dataset. You can tell it to open it in read mode as a binary file, reading it one record at a time, and to tell it not to skip around. By adding no-seek, you're improving the I/O performance of the read operation. For more information about ZFile or any other JZOS APIs, refer to our ZFile Java doc. Here is our JZOS Java doc for Java 8. And we'll have this link on our website for you, so you don't have to go type in the entire URL into your browser. Here, if you browse this JZOS package, you can see there are plenty of other classes you can take advantage of. Right now, we're only using the ZFile class. And here is the constructor that we are using. ZFile, pass in the file name, and a bunch of options for opening file. I won't get too much into the Java docs, as you can explore on your own. Once you have the ZOS dataset opened, you can now read from it. Here is the block for reading the ZOS dataset. We're going to allocate an array of bytes for reading one record at a time. So we're going to call that a record. And we're going to call ZFile read and pass in this record. So once we call read, if there are a record available from the ZOS dataset, it will be stored in the record buffer. And ZFile read will return the amount of bytes read. If the amount of bytes read is -1, then that means we've reached the end of the dataset. If it is greater or equal to 0, we will turn that record into a Java string, and we will print out the record string directly to standard output. Once we finish reading, we will exit out of the while loop, and we will close the Z file. And by doing that, we'll be closing the ZOS dataset that we're reading. That is it. That is the simple Java application for reading from a ZOS dataset containing insurance paid information. Next, we'll be going over different ways to deploy this Java application on ZOS.